Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, I want to talk about something that I don't think a lot of people talk about too much, and that's about people's poker face, right? You ever notice how like a lot of people cannot admit that their life kind of it is what it is? Like, so for example, when I was struggling, I was making $20,000 a year for about 3, 4 years. I just told everybody my life sucked, and I was hoping that somebody would help me, right? And I realized that most of the population is not like that, right? Like I actually need help. Please help me. And one of the things that you kind of figure out is most people are just kind of insincere on their intentions for whatever reason. And I always feel like if you're just insincere and putting on a charade or facade, that's actually more work. And because maybe I'm just way too lazy, I just don't do that. Like they say these days that authenticity is the currency of today, just because like so few people have it. And you could see this everywhere. And actually, it's something that Dave Ramsey talks about, how most people look good, but they're struggling. And I've always like scratched my head with that type of behavior. Like, if your friends and family or just the people around you could actually help you, um, why wouldn't you take it? And I've just kind of noticed in my life, like, maybe I'm a little bit different in that I'm asking for help. And, one of the sad parts that you kind of realize is that, yes, for help from other people, because most people are kind of pathetic, they look down upon you even though they're struggling themselves. It's kind of like, you know, you're drowning in the water and you're asking for like a life raft, and then the person who you're asking for a life raft is making fun of you for asking for a life raft even though they're drowning too, and they act like they're not, right? That's just the state of society. And so, the other thing too is if you actually come to most people with simple and easy executable truths, like, hey, like, this is how you can help your life. Just do this, and you'll notice that my presentation or style of videos, especially with the velocity banking ones, is like, look, all I did was just a simple debt transfer, just one click, and look how this cash flow increased from 300 to 3,000. Most people in real life that I've talked to can't handle that. They can't, because what they do is they write this story in their head about how the reason why they're struggling is because of X, Y, and Z. And so when you give them very easy and simple truths, their mind is kind of I don't want to say fried, but they just don't know how to handle it. And so it's like kind of like seeing a ghost, right? They saw the ghost and then they just pretend it wasn't there, right? And that's how like a lot of my interactions with other people are actually like in real life. And the other thing too is that most people, when I used to talk about like the poker face, for whatever reason, I've had this happen to me in Zoom calls where people are like, trying to act like I want their money, which I don't, because I'm in a position where I don't need your money right now. And who knows, knock on wood, what if I go broke tomorrow? But then, I know how most people are, because I kind of was like this too, where they're gonna like watch your videos obsessively, and then when they get an actual call with you, they act like, oh, well, I don't really need this. And a lot of that is just ego and pride, right? It's kind of sad. But here's the funny thing I learned about how like big corporations are different from your average person. And so one of the things that I thought, like learning about big corporations and having worked with them, is that they're actually always engaging with outside people, right? They're always trying to find new solutions, new products, new services, and that's why they actually hire, professionals, procurement teams, pay them a full time salary just to do that, because it's actually a full time endeavor. You know what I'm saying? And you look at that compared to your average person who just kind of like dabbles in things but never actually completes them. It's kind of like they always watch a movie preview and then just gonna judge the movie without like watching the movie. I notice like the big corporations, they actually like are watching movies all the time in a metaphorical sense, and then evaluating if they're good or not, and they're willing to watch the bad movies, if that makes sense. And another way of saying that is that they constantly get burned by the people that they work with, but it's like a net result. The net result is that they're always constantly growing, because they maybe like they work with 10 people and the 5 people burn them. Well, guess what? The 5 people who don't burn them are putting like a net positive on their company, right? And but the problem is that a lot of people are just way too, and I don't know if this is the right word, conservative in just their approach to life, where it's just like they just wake up, they eat, they go home, and you present them with like good ideas to maybe help them, and they can't handle it because it's just way too simple. And if they were actually being able to recognize like, hey, what you're saying is real, that means they almost have to blame themselves, right? It's weird, like how most people will just keep they're okay with keep struggling, and just as long as they don't have to recognize like who the person in the mirror is. Isn't that sad? Like I'm like confused every time like I talk with people, and sometimes I experience my version of Groundhog Day where I talk with other people, I tell them simple things, and then they act like they've seen a ghost. And it's also been true with this YouTube channel too in certain aspects because when I tell people like, yeah, I got monetized in 3 months, like they just look at me and they don't they act like I didn't even say it right, but it's a really impressive thing. And you know what's really funny? If I type in Chat GPT, like, is this a really impressive thing to get monetized in 3 months? And actually, let me just show you a few other things. I'm gonna go to channel analytics. And let me just do this. We'll go to watch time hours, right? And for the lifetime of the channel, like here's the thing: if I actually go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, my channel's only been on YouTube for about 6 months, and people have been watching 15,000 hours. Is that good?" ChatGPT will say, "Wow, that's really impressive because it takes only 1,000 hours of watch or 4,000 hours of watch time in a year to get monetized, and you're doing really well." And but then when I tell that to other people, they're putting on their poker face and they're just kind of like ignoring it, right? They don't have this desire. It's like, wow, how'd you do that? Let me do that with you, right? Like a lot of 90, I don't want to say 99%, but in my mind, it's kind of been like 99%. Of like, wow, how'd you do that? Let me do that with you. Like, can I go with you? Like, they don't want to go on the ride with you, right? And that's why, in order to be a successful person in this day and age, it's so much harder because you're like a ghost to most people. You're not real, right? Because so many people, including their friends, including the people they go to school with, including the people at work, are struggling. So when you're telling other people, like, hey, like, I'm not struggling. I'm actually doing pretty well, and I'm enjoying life, well, at least to the best I can. That's not their reality. And so if they try to find out what you're doing, it's like them finding out that their entire life is a lie, which is why they're not going to ask you, right? If you have ever had those moments where you like did things that you thought were really cool, and Chat GPT again, if you what's ironic is that if you ask Chat GPT like the things you've done, Chat GPT will probably give you a more objective response than your normal average human, right? Like you ask Chat GPT, hey, I got 15,000 watch hours in about 6 months. Is that impressive? ChatGPT, like, whoa, that's impressive, right? You ask a normal human being, like, hey, I got 15,000 watch hours on YouTube in 6 months, and I got monetized in 3 months. They're gonna act like you didn't actually say what you said, right? And that's what I mean by the poker face. And that's why a lot of people will get angry that you can help because most people can't recognize simple truths that can help them because their lives has just been full of BS their entire life. And I hate to say that, but that's true, right? But, you know, I always like to keep 100 in this channel, keep it real because this channel is just an expression of myself. And if a lot of people can't handle it, I don't really care. And I've always said that, like, well, when I was struggling, people didn't help me anyway. So what's if I have money now, do you think I'm really going to care? In fact, society just did condition me to not care when I was struggling because every time I asked for a life raft, uh, people didn't give me one, right? So it's not like people like liking what I say or not liking what I say is actually going to matter. But that's kind of the sad truth, right? But just keeping it real, man. Just keeping it real. All right. Well, this is Creating Atlanta Mentorship. If you're interested in joining our group, go ahead and click the Google form link below. Other than that, have a great day, and we will speak next time.